Each week, we will host a free weekly webinar, and you will receive the link to join in your email. Thank you so much for joining us today. If in the future there are any time changes or day changes, we will notify you in ample time. These free webinars are recorded, and if you miss the webinar, you will automatically receive the recording from us. So that's all for me. Debbie, you can take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Paige, and welcome everyone. This is an introduction to Fierce Conversations, and my goal today is to be able to give you some information that you can absolutely take away with you today that will help you in your conversations. And then I really want to also share with you some information of how it will be helpful for you in your business or whatever role you happen to be in. That one of the great things about Fierce Conversations is each and every one of us has conversations. And this is an opportunity for you to improve in your conversations that actually, well, it impacts every relationship that you have, whether it's the one that you're working with across the table or it's the one that is waiting for you when you get home. And so that's one of the beauties about Fierce Conversation. I will tell you, Fierce Conversations is not a destination. I have been practicing and using, and I say practicing because it's something that I don't know if you ever get to the point where you've mastered it, because after all, we're dealing with other individuals, and so the only thing that we can do, though, is improve ourselves. And so I really want to encourage anybody today, if there's a specific question, maybe you're dealing with a specific challenge and you'd like to ask that question, I just want to encourage you to use the question box on your webinar screen. Now, if you're driving, please do not do that. Use the question box, and I'll be happy to do the best I can to answer with the time that we have any of the questions that come in. So let me kind of get you started as far as what I want to be able to do today is identify what's in it for you. Why would you want to participate in Fierce Conversations, and how will it benefit you and your program? The first thing I want to do, though, is we hear Fierce Conversations, and it's really amazing how, well, different images come to mind about what a fierce conversation is. In fact, we even hear the word fierce when it's partnered with conversations. We think of something kind of confrontational. We think of something that may be, I don't know, kind of in your face, brutal. And really, the definition of fierce conversations is really not that at all. Let me give you a little bit of history as far as where Fierce Conversations comes from, and that may actually help you. So it's based off of a book by the same name by Susan Scott. And this particular program, and actually I apologize, there's an error on here. It's actually an 8-week program. Here's what it is designed to help you do. It will actually help you enrich relationships with everyone that is important to your success, both in your professional life and in your personal life. The other thing it will do, though, is it actually improves your leadership. It improves those workplace conversations, again, if it's somebody that you're working side by side with or somebody that you're working across the table with. It will actually help you create and build alignment and collaboration. Now, I want you to think about that for just a moment. If you've got a team of individuals that you're working with, in order to have more, to be in alignment, that's how you will actually get to your goals, not only faster, but you will actually get there in a much more enjoyable method. And the collaboration is working, everybody working in the same direction. It will also help you increase your business with stronger relationships, which in turn leads to more referrals. There's really not anything more important that you can do than build stronger relationships. So one of the things that when you think about building relationships and think about conversations, see what gets talked about and how it gets talked about actually determines what will or will not happen. One of the things that I want you to have a perspective of is that a lot of times when we have a, let's say it's a difficult conversation that we need to either hold or we need to just do something about it. One of the things that we look at is sometimes we go into that conversation really wanting to be right. And one of the things that happens is when we're so focused on going into the conversation wanting to be right, what that means is we have to prove the other person wrong. And when we go in that way, we're not listening. So if we go into the conversation that way, that's how we will emerge. Our business, your business, is basically fundamentally an extended conversation. It's an extended conversation with our clients, our customers, our team members, and even the agent that's sitting across the table. Unfortunately, though, many of these conversations are failing, or even worse, they're being unreal. What do I mean about being unreal? Is very often we're not saying what really needs to be said, or we're not saying what we need to say. We're holding back. Even worse, we have missed conversations. We avoid it. Maybe it's lack of skill. Well, what if you could learn a model? Now, here's what I mean about models. Sometimes people get into fierce conversations and they want to learn the scripts. Fierce conversations is not about scripts. Fierce conversations is actually, you will get some conversation models so that you know how to go into the conversation and how to lay it out to where it's not guaranteed, because you're dealing with another human being across the table from you, or that you're having a conversation with, and you can't control what they hear, how they hear it. Yet, what if you had a conversation model that could help support you to say the things that you needed to say? Sometimes it's a fear. We fear losing the relationship. We fear that we're not going to be effective in our communication. Again, what if you could learn a model? In fact, you could learn a model and you could use it that very same afternoon. That very afternoon. We've got a question here. One of the things that I've been running into more and more is dealing with individuals who are reluctant to listen or who pay attention to what I'm saying or sharing with them. Your question is, how would you better approach or handle to engage this type of person? That's a great question. Now, again, we can't control them, and so what we have to do is how could we get the conversation started? So there's a couple of tips that I will tell you right now. One of the things is that if you prepare to go into the conversation and you immediately address what this conversation is about, one of the things that happens is we enter the conversation and we're not going to the core, to the heart of the matter. And so if you had a model, so let's say, for example, you needed this person to listen, okay? And maybe let's say that it is a seller, okay? So if you have a seller and you need them to listen that we need a price reduction. One of the models in just looking at the first two things is you identify what the issue is right from the very beginning. See, very often we enter conversations and we don't get to the heart of the matter, the issue. So now you name it. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we need to reduce the price of your home. So immediately you're addressing what the issue is. Then you go immediately into what's at stake. See, when the brain hears the word what's at stake, it automatically starts paying attention. So sometimes it's just paying attention to some key words and then getting right to it instead of talking about other things and then trying to ease your way into the conversation. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, and one of the things that the way to handle it is to address the issue up front, what's at stake. That's two of the methods, okay, or two of the steps to engage that type of person. You may even just say, this is an important conversation, and the issue that I want to address with you is this, and you may even have to set some boundaries or some guidelines around it so that they hear everything you have to say. Even one of the models that we introduce in Fierce Conversations when it's a confrontation, it's called the 60-second opening statement. And the reason that it's called the 60-second opening statement is because you actually make 7 sentences that you put together in a specific model and format, and it takes you 60 seconds to deliver the message. Now, it's not guaranteed to help you get the outcome you want without further discussion. That's just the opening statement. Okay, so I hope that that helps answer your question there. We've got another one. Love the idea of conversation models, a perfect way to describe the roadmap to engaging in a fierce conversation. Absolutely. The conversation model, and I'll introduce you to one at the very end of this to just kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here, okay? So again, it's a conversation model, and we'll introduce you to several of them. So let's just take a look at what's in it for you. I think you can already see when you have a conversation model that you can use and that you can learn, and immediately you'll be able to implement it. It's very user-friendly. That will help you in so many ways. So Fierce Conversations actually teaches you how to ignite productive dialogue. I want you to think about how many times we go into a conversation and we never really get to what we need, right? It's not productive. What if you could get to it productive with a client, a staff member, a team member, even family or friends, okay? Michael, I don't know how to address that page. I might let you type that in since he's asking about audio and he can't hear from the computer speaker, so it may be something that he needs to actually dial in with. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry guys, we had a question there that was popping up with somebody that was having difficulty listening. So I want you to think about your business currently. Are your conversations creating the clarity, or are they causing more frustration and confusion? Most of the time, again, it's learning how to identify what needs to be said in such a manner in which, again, I think one of the biggest fears is that we go into the conversation just wanting to prove our point. And this model will actually look at really identifying what the other person is seeing or hearing. See, one of the things that I like to say in a fierce conversation is whatever it was that you heard is somehow what I communicated. And the reason is because I've got to take responsibility for what you heard. It may not have been what I said, definitely may not have been what I intended, yet I have to take responsibility for that. The way that I do it is I have to constantly check and make sure that what you're hearing is actually what I'm saying. Let's look at creating clarity or causing frustration or confusion. What about the lost opportunity and income that may be occurring as a result of you causing frustration or confusion? Significant. Here's some of the things that can actually happen because of this missing or failed conversations. Number one, we could be losing commissions through poor negotiations. So if you had a great conversation model that could help you, it would be the team conversation, right? Because that's what we're doing is we're working as a team to make sure that we have the end result that we're looking for. Sometimes we take overpriced listings just because we've either missed the conversation, we didn't really communicate effectively to that seller to be able to tell them the market is recommending this price. We may lose referrals due to poor connection and weak relationships. Oh my gosh, what about the time? The time and money due to missing conversations on expectations, settling for substandard performance by team members. Work being redone as a result of misunderstandings, misalignments, and lack of collaboration with a team or group. I've got another question here. I'm gonna attempt to pronounce your first name. I totally apologize up front if I butcher this. Lakayla, L-A-K-A-L-A. She puts another question in that says, the setting of the conversation's important, either in person or over the phone, etc. Yeah, I pronounced it right. Thank you, Lakayla. One of the things, so you can do both. Now, depending upon, I'm going to say the emotional load that is attached to the conversation may warrant that it's done face-to-face. What I mean by emotional load is there a lot of emotion that could be that's involved in this conversation? And the more emotion that is there, the more likely we need to have this face-to-face. Now, it's possible that it may not be the opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation. The reason why, I do coaching, one-on-one coaching, and all of that is over the phone. It is something that you've really got to trust your intuition and your gut, and you've got to really listen at such a deeper level if it's over the phone. So a lot of times it can just, it can exaggerate, it can just make it difficult, okay? And yes, and Lakayla says the reason why she asked is about body language. We are at a disadvantage if we can't see the person because we can't see what the body is also telling us. See, it's not just the words that we use that is communicating. And even over the phone, you can hear different things. I can change my tone of voice and say exactly the same thing, and you can hear something different. So there are some other elements to it. And if you're over the phone, you definitely have body language that you're not going to be able to take advantage of. So you need to listen at a deeper level or a different level. Okay. Valerie is asking, is it best to have difficult conversations in person or over the phone? Again, I would recommend, it depends on the emotional load that's attached to it. A difficult conversation may not have a lot of emotion attached to it on either side. Most of the time, though, it does. And yet, at the same time, it may be that you don't have the opportunity to be with them face-to-face. So I hate to give an answer one or the other. I will say if there's more emotion involved, it's always better. Nowadays, with our social media, it may even be that you can FaceTime or you Skype or something like that so that you can still at least see the person and you at least have some type of connection there. Okay? So I love these questions. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you. So one of the things I want to kind of give you an idea of is looking at your business and what could communications or having maybe missed conversations or failed conversations, those misunderstandings that we talked about, what's the impact that it can really have? We talked about some of the costs, and I want to kind of drill down on this idea. So let's look at one area. Gary Keller, he teaches us that our best business is from repeat and referral. In fact, the National Association of Realtors shows that about 21% of an agent's business, average business, is a result of repeat and referral business. So how do we get these referrals? Well, our success as a business owner, leader, and individual is in direct proportion to our relationships. One of the key ideas in fierce conversations is that the conversation is the relationship. So see, if we, I want you to think of it this way. If we add to the list of things that we can't talk about because it's going to ruin another weekend, or if we don't talk to that seller about getting the price reduction and we just think that they're going to come to their senses one day, right? So we're not having those conversations. Well, if the conversation is the relationship, then that relationship and that connection is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so are the two people in the relationship. See, we just can't, we've got to be able to, I mean, if you look at your relationships right now, you can think about which relationships, look at the quality of the relationship, and it will tell you whether or not there's a needed conversation or a conversation that's needed. So I want you to imagine if you improved your relationships with your current clients, like if you were the type of person that they just knew that whatever was going on, no matter what the news was, they could count on you to always deliver it. Here's the key. Deliver the news, deliver the information, no matter how difficult it is, but you do it in such a manner to where there's no judgment attached to it. In other words, they're not right or wrong, it's we're communicating. See, that's what, we've got to take the right or wrong out of the equation when we communicate. We just simply need to communicate. This is our perspective. Let me give you an example of just, if we looked at 36 transactions over a 12-month period of time. And Gary Keller says 21%, or not Gary Keller, I apologize, the National Association of Realtors says 21% of our business comes from repeat business. That would be about 8 of those 36 transactions. Let's say we take an average commission, $4,000. So that would be $32,000 of our commissions that was basically as a result of the current relationship that we had and our ability to connect with them. Now, I want you to imagine by using conversation models and really understanding and applying, we've got 7 full principles inside Fierce Conversation. By applying those principles, building your skill, using the strategies and the models of Fierce Conversation, if you only had one more referral as a result of that, just one more referral, which I know it's absolutely possible. And as a result of that, your rate of return on your investment to take the full 8-week group program would be over $3,000. Pretty good rate of return. So let's look at the goals of a Fierce Conversation. So these are goals or the objective, okay? Now, in order for a conversation to be fierce, it needs to have all 4 of these. All 4 of these. The first one is that we interrogate reality. If all of us were standing in one location right now, and I asked you to describe what you were seeing, whether we were in a room or whether we were standing outside, maybe we're standing in a room and we're looking out the same window, would we all describe it the same way? The answer is no. Yeah, there may be elements of it that we identify the same, but we're going to describe it differently. That's the same thing about interrogating reality. See, both of us could go to the same meeting, we could hear the same presenter, and yet we could both take away a different message. So again, who's right? Well, we both are. Because see, reality, it changes. And when we actually interrogate the reality, whether it's our client or our team member or it's somebody at home, it allows us then to make the best possible decision when we interrogate reality, because now we actually understand what they're seeing. Now, interrogate may sound a little bit like, being a detective or something and interrogating somebody with bright, shiny lights. I want you to imagine it, though, as if we were simply to be able to see things through their eyes, to hear things through their ears, what would we be hearing? What would we be seeing? That's more of the interrogating reality. The other thing that a fierce conversation has is it actually helps us provoke our learning. How is somebody else seeing this situation? What are they hearing? And again, you're able to, as a result of that, make the best possible decision. You will actually learn how to handle tough challenges and conversations. Now, that's going to free up your energy so that you can take care of things that really matter. And then finally, it enriches relationships. You get a higher level of satisfaction for all of your clients, customers, and team members. Okay, so the difficult challenge a lot of times is, where do you really learn to understand, interrogate somebody's reality, and how do we do it? And sometimes we just don't have the opportunity, and there's not enough out there to kind of teach us that, and that's what Fierce Conversations does. So let me give you an idea of what you would learn, okay, in the 8 sessions. Not only do you learn about emotional capital, how do you build emotional capital with somebody? Now, if you have a team, this is critical. And the reason that it's critical is because that emotional capital is really going to determine whether this person is just going to show up and do a task in exchange for compensation, or whether they're really in, whether they're willing to actually give you, if they're hungry, to see the team reach their goals. So we're going to learn about emotional capital and how do we build capital in other people so that we're all working towards the same goal. We'll learn how to get to the ground truth. The ground truth is what's actually going on, not just what we think is going on. You're going to learn 3 transformational ideas. One of them I've already taught you today. The conversation is the relationship. See, I want you to take away that idea alone. And for the rest of the day, I want you to think about, well, the conversation is the relationship. So based on your last relationship with that person, how would you define based on your last conversation you had with that individual, how would you classify the relationship? Is it one that's connected? Is it one that is going to lead to more business? Is going to lead to more enrichment in your life? We're going to learn 7 principles. How to have a fierce conversation. Let me give you one of those principles right now. In fact, it's part of the definition of a fierce conversation. And that principle is come out from behind yourself into the conversation and make it real. Come out from behind yourself. What does that really mean? I don't know if you guys have ever seen at a carnival or something like that, and you have these little cutouts, and you get to stick your face in them. So it may be like the bikini babe or the muscle guy at the beach, and you get to stick your face in them, and then you've got their body. How many times are we actually going into a conversation kind of the same way? We're behind a cutout. In other words, we're showing up the way we think that person needs us to show up. And we've really lost sight of who we are and our authenticity. Are we just saying what we think the person needs to hear or wants to hear, Or are we really coming out from behind ourselves and showing them that? See, when we come out from behind ourselves, we're showing up in the most powerful way that you could ever show up in a conversation, authentic. Are you being authentic with your buyers and sellers? Two powerful conversation models. It's going to build alignment, collaboration, and you're going to learn how to delegate more effectively to develop your people. We'll also learn some common mistakes that people make when attempting to hold a difficult conversation and tips and strategies. Okay. Let me give you an example of this, and then I'm going to open this up to more questions. You guys have been fantastic with the questions, but one of the conversation models that you're going to learn is the team conversation, okay? And you can do this not only in a one-on-one conversation, but you can do it with a whole group of people. So if you have a team, or if you're on leadership in a market center, this is probably one of the most effective conversation models that you could ever learn. So here's an example. This is how you can informally use it. Let's say that you have a seller that wants to price their home way too high for it to sell. And a lot of times what happens is we go into that conversation wanting to just convince them the price that they need to sell it at. Well, here's a way that you could actually more effectively have the conversation, get the conversation started so that you could have a better income. Again, this is not a script. It's a conversation. Okay? So the first thing we do is we identify the issue. Want to price the home too high. That's the issue. We're pricing it out of the market. Okay? That would be the issue. Then we say, why is it significant? Another way of wording that is, what's at stake if we do that? We go to the ideal outcome. The ideal outcome, which basically both of us want to achieve, is we want to get the home sold. Then we go into relevant background information. Well, in this situation, it makes sense that the relevant background information would be whatever's going on in the market. Then you could identify, what have you done, meaning the speaker, the agent in this case, what have you done to this point? Well, you've done your research. You study the market on a daily basis. You know the trends. Then you look at the options. What is it that you're leaning towards? So that could possibly be what we're looking at pricing it at and how long you're going to keep it at that price before we would need to do something different. And then you identify, what do you want from them? Well, what you want from them is to price your home to sell. So let me give you an idea of what that conversation may sound like. And I'm going to just kind of follow those 7 items that we have there. So it would sound something like this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, where you're wanting to price your home, we would be pricing it out of the market. Now that's significant because what's at stake is that you won't get to your next destination to start your job on time. You're going to have 2 house payments because you've already purchased a home there, and this one is not going to sell. I'm concerned that that would actually put financial strain on your family. The ideal outcome that we're both looking for is to get this home sold so that you won't have dual house payment. Now, I've studied the market. I've gone back and looked at the market, and right now, there's way too many homes on the market in your price range, and yours is not competitively priced with where you want to put it. Options, what I'm leaning towards is pricing it here. That will put us not at the bottom of the market, but it will put us where those homes are selling at a quicker pace. What I want from you is I would like for you to agree to let's price your home here so that we can get it sold and you can get on to your next position. Again, it's not a script. Okay. I've got a question here from William, and he says, how do we develop a team conversation model for building our team? I'm not sure exactly, William, what it is that you're asking. If you could give me a little bit more information so that I could give you the correct kind of what you're really looking for. The team conversation, the model that you've seen is what's on the screen where we're identifying the issue and so forth. It's called the team conversation because we can actually go to a group of individuals, whether that be 3 to 15 to 20 people, and we could identify an issue. So an issue could be an opportunity, an issue could be a problem that we're having, it could be maybe a decision that needs to be made, we need to add another person to our team, and you're wanting to get feedback. The key is with the outcome for this particular model is that you will be able to not only have alignment with everybody else on the team, but you will make, as the leader of that team or as the leader of this decision, you will make the best possible decision. So I want to make sure that, that I gave you clarity there. So if you have something else, William, that you're specifically asking, please type that in to the question box, and I will absolutely help you with that. The thing I want you to understand with this model is these 7 steps: identifying the issue, why is it significant, what's the ideal outcome, what's the background information, what have I done to this point, what options am I considering, and what do you want from the group or whoever it is that you're talking to. That is a perfect way to start a conversation that will actually help you get the outcome that you are looking for. Okay, so again, it's not a script, it's a model. It's step by step you can answer those questions. One of the things that I will actually share with you is that sometimes just identifying those 7 points helps you gain clarity. How many times have you gone into a meeting either with somebody else or yourself, and you take rabbit trails, and you really never get to the core issue? So by having a model, it allows you to not only stay on track, but it actually helps you communicate with clarity. And what is it, not only what is the issue, what is it, why are we talking about it, helps you identify that, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've been in meetings where I'm like, why are we talking about this? And this model will help you identify that to everybody so that you get engagement, okay? All right, so William, I'm not sure if I helped you with that. What other questions do you guys have as we wrap up this webinar today? As you're typing in your questions, the next session actually begins Monday. It's going to be at 11:30 to 12:30 Central Time. There's a total of 8 sessions in which you're going to learn the conversation models. You're going to learn the principles. The principles are the way you enter into a conversation is how you're going to emerge out of it. So the more powerfully that we can enter the conversation, and you're going to learn 7 principles of how to do that, how to show up in those conversations that will help you. Coming out from behind yourself into the conversation and making it real is one of those principles. How do we do that? So we're going to dig deep into each of those as well as the conversation models. What other questions do you guys have today that I can answer for you? Would love to have each and every one of you join Fierce Group. I got to tell you, there's just some things that have really significantly happened with participants that have taken Fierce Conversations, how it has really improved their lives. I just the other day, we have a live workshop as well that we do that has some of the same material in it, and I got an email from somebody that just said, I got to tell you, my relationship with my spouse is better than it's ever been because of using the principles of Fierce Conversations. That was just from taking the one-day course. So it definitely will help make a difference. Okay, we got a question here from Kimberly. Confrontational agents not coming from contribution. Yeah, okay. How do you get outside of yourself when you are dealing with a challenging co-op agent? Yeah, oh gosh, it is difficult, Kimberly, and part of it is because what happens is we get triggered. We get triggered when we've got somebody that's super, challenging and confrontational, and so what that means is that then all of our defense mechanisms pop up. We get defensive, we want to deflect, and we want to do some other things. And so part of it is how do you come out from behind yourself? It's really being able to even, and again, I don't know the situation, so please just know anything I'm about to say, I don't have all the information in the context of the conversation. And if I was in something and somebody was being really challenging as a co-op agent, what I would do is say, the issue is that we're dealing with here is we need to get this home sold. Now, it's at stake because your people need this. You could actually use the conversation model to start the conversation. Again, you can't make somebody else change, okay? But the way you come out from behind yourself is to take the emotion out of it. A lot of times in a confrontational situation, we get our emotions triggered, and the best way that we can do that is we have to go back to that logical place of where we're communicating with logic and not with emotion. A lot easier said than done. I grant you that. And I've done it very effectively where there have been people that have just been like ready to fight, right? Ready to get defensive. And then you communicate in a different way by pointing to what the real issue is and what outcome we want. And that will actually help us. Even taking the emotion out. With a co-op agent, a lot of times they're wanting to be right. And if they're wanting to be right, that means that they're wanting to prove you wrong. So then what happens to the clients? So that's how we take the emotion out of it and we put logic back into it. That's a really quick answer, Kimberly. And again, I didn't have all the context, so I hope that gives you some idea. The way we come from out from behind ourselves is we don't just say, well, this person's difficult and we're not going to get through to them. Because as soon as we do that, we get to prove ourselves right, okay, because that's our context that we have. All right, good job. Glad I could help you with that, Kimberly. Thank you. All right, I know, guys, we are out of time for today. And so I want to be able to, again, if you guys have other questions, there's so much to learn inside Fierce Group. Again, it begins on Monday at 11:30. I am very passionate about this material. I know the difference it's made in my life, and I hear the difference that it's making in agents in their business, getting more commission dollars because their relationships are better. And if your relationships improve at work, they also improve at home. So I look forward to having each and every one of you that's on this webinar. If you didn't get to do the live part and you're listening to the audio, I really would love to have you participate and get you there. All right? Guys, thank you so very much. Paige, do you have any other announcements or anything before we wrap this up today?
That's it. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us today, and everyone who has been on the webinar today. Thank you so much. And this recording will be going out, and we will see you all next week. And we hope to hear from you when the program begins. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Awesome. Thanks,
Have a good one.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.